Welcome to the Emily Rassam Show, the podcast that proves parenting, business, and home life can all be juggled, just not always gracefully. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share because laughter and maybe chaos is better when it's spread around. Hello, and welcome to the Emily Rassam Show. I'm your host, Emily Rassam, and today I am joined by Jill McClure of Jilly's Tarts. She also goes by Jilly, and she founded Jilly's Tarts in 2019, and she was working with corporate, and then 2020 happened and things got crazy. And we're here today to talk about finding your priorities, and we're going to start at the beginning of her journey. Her parents bought and sold airplanes and manufactured jewelry before becoming restaurant owners in the desert. I'd like her to take it away at this part of her story, and we'll kind of chug along from there. So Jill, tell us all about your parents and how you got started into entrepreneurial bug.
Thank you. Well, it truly was a founded in the garage story. My grandfather and my dad started jewelry manufacturing in my grandfather's garage. And my dad, being the entrepreneur that he is, soon took that to an actual salon, a retail space, and a manufacturing building, and then opened up several stores throughout California and Colorado. And my mom was a jewelry designer, so she designed a lot of the pieces there, and I grew up that way. At the same time, my dad was a private pilot. My mom got her license, and they bought and sold airplanes. It was very much the beginning of my seeing what an entrepreneurial family is like, and a spark that kind of never goes away, for sure.
Can you tell me about, I know there's always a story, but what is something that your parents did that really got you? Was there a fun story that maybe happened when you were a kid and you said, I really like this entrepreneur thing?
As a kid, it was always the camaraderie, really, of the people who worked with mom and dad in the salon. It was like an extended family. And there was great joy in going there. We went in there, I think the first job my sister and I ever had were pulling bows to put on the top of Christmas packages. You feel like you're helping so much when you're 5.
Yes.
But it really was that it was a fun place to be. It was beautiful to work with jewelry. It was so creative, it was just completely fun. And they would host like a Christmas Eve gathering before everybody would go home. And it just brought everyone together. It was always very festive. And I knew that I wanted to be part of something like that.
I love that. I know a lot of people have told me that they compare being an entrepreneur to not being an animal from the zoo, but they're one of those wild and free animals running on the African plain. And I think I would agree with that. Yes. And Jill is quite the entrepreneur. She's very creative. So tell us then how you ended up in California. I know you were in Washington before, or Oregon.
Oregon.
What brought you all to California?
Well, my sister and I both came to California for college. So we
Oh,
went to
okay.
the Claremont colleges. And, it's a lot sunnier in California than it is in Oregon. And we liked it a lot. And so we had kind of decided that we probably weren't moving back to Oregon. And so in the meantime, when my parents were winding down their jewelry business and they were finding out that we were probably staying, they decided to bring a family pancake house franchise that has been in Oregon for years and years called Elmer's down to the desert. And so we helped them open that restaurant, no experience in the restaurant industry, in the 70s during a college summer vacation.
Wow. Okay. And so where in the desert was this located? I'm just curious because there's less desert now than there used to be in the 70s, I'm sure.
Well, Palm Springs, but
Palm
it's
Springs.
right
Okay.
on the 111 highway. So if you're going
Okay.
from Palm Springs to, say, Cathedral City or Palm Desert, you'll see it. It's still there, it's still thriving. Doesn't happen to be ours anymore, but it's lasted the test of time for sure.
That's wonderful. And it really is in
Mhm.
the desert if you are listening and do not know where Palm Springs is located. It's definitely
It
in the
is.
desert. It's right there out by Joshua Tree and Death Valley. So it's plenty hot there.
Yes, 120 in the summers. That was
Okay.
another challenge.
So then tell us a little bit more about your journey. What happened after college and what was the experience after college that you may have had that made you change your priorities? Because I think you've been changing your priorities all along and
Hmm.
following your heart and seeing what you need to do next.
Well, interestingly enough, I grew up singing and dancing and doing musical theater. And my sister, who was only 16 months older than me, we had a trio and with my cousin. And we started singing when I was 15, we started singing professionally in restaurants and weddings and all that. But I thought that my sister and I, because of our harmony, would go on to have that as a career. But she wanted to branch out on her own. And so I broke off. I needed to stay in the creative field, and so I got a talent agent and became a commercial actress. So I was in commercials and commercial print. And in the meantime, we opened up 2 more restaurants. So I helped my parents with, and my fiance at the time, open up 2 other restaurants and do my commercial acting on the side. My priorities switched because of my sister not wanting to do what I thought we were going to do. And, it's fine. It's great. Everybody has their path. But definitely it was that. And then opening up the restaurants. And until we decided that we didn't want to work every holiday and every weekend. And
Yes.
even though you have managers and you put people into place, you're still responsible. If somebody doesn't show up, you have to dive right in. So I had gotten married and we were thinking about having kids, and it just wasn't. It was time to change. Our priorities were starting to change again. It was time to get out of the restaurant business per se, the full service restaurant business.
Right.
And my dad and husband went into franchising bagels, so bagel franchises. And my mom and I switched to something she'd always wanted to do, which was design clothing. So there we go. We jumped in. My mom was the designer because she had done jewelry design, great at sketching. And I was the one who was doing the production. I had to find the pattern makers, the seamstress, source the fabric, all of that. And it was quite the challenge, but super fun. Funny story with that, though, is one of my life lessons was my father was always very positive and always told me that I could do anything I set my mind to. And so I never thought anything of calling the fabric house in New York, where it was at that time really male dominated, and asking for some fabric to be shipped to me the next day. And I got this lovely older man and who was in charge, and he told me there was no way that I could get my fabric shipped out. It would be to me in 2 weeks, and I had some orders that I had to fill. I went back to my dad and I said, "Well, you always said that, I could do anything I wanted to, that I set my mind to, but I'm having trouble getting what I need from the fabric house. Here's the phone.
Right.
I'm putting the right people into place. This is the life lesson. If you can't do it, put the right people in place." My dad called, being businessman that he is, the low, deep voice, knowing how to talk to the people who have been in business forever. We got the fabric shipped out the next day.
Wonderful. I love that
Big life
story.
lesson. Yeah.
You reminded me too. So I started coming up with phrases to tell my children, and one of them is Rassams always find a way.
I like it.
So I'm trying to come up with just things to throw in there, and now I hear them when they're playing and they can't figure something out. And one of them will say, Rassams always find a way.
That is so cute.
Because I'm
I love
trying
it.
to kind of like put that in their heart and mind. I'm thinking of other things to say too, but that's one of the ones I came up with first.
Perfect. It worked for my dad.
Yes, yes, and your dad's the one that goes on the phone, my husband is the one I put on the phone.
Perfect.
He's so
Doesn't
much
matter who it
nicer
is.
than
You
I
just
am. That's
we just
right.
get it done. Yeah.
Yes, yes, and so you went from manufacturing clothing then. How did that go? Was it fun? What was the most challenging thing that you experienced doing that? And yes, just tell us a little bit more about it.
It was fun. I mean, the creative part is always fun. I think that's the most fun of any of the entrepreneurial businesses for me. It's a very tough business. I mean, there's a lot of competition. We were selling retail, so you have to do 4 lines per year. Was constantly designing and manufacturing and coming up with new fabrics and all of that. And it's a lot. And I had to learn the ropes with pattern makers. I had one little snafu where I was paying the pattern maker by piece. And so in order to make more money, he stretched the fabric to get more pieces. And it ruined our sizing. So lesson learned. There's always some lessons to be learned along the way. The good
Yes.
news is you learn it once and you don't make that mistake again. So, and you
Amen to
fix it.
that. Amen to that.
Right. But again, here's one of my priorities that changed is that I now had children, babies, and traveling to Los Angeles and the garment district all the time was not, what you never, I don't think you really understand until you have them what it's like to have children on a schedule and
Right.
not disrupt them. And it really wasn't something, and I didn't want to leave them with someone all the time. And so we went from selling in retail to selling in home parties, which before home parties really were
Right,
the
right.
rage.
You
So
were
that's kind
close
of
right after Mary Kay. Didn't
that's
Mary
right.
Kay start about right then too?
I
It's very
remember, but
innovative,
that's
like, I'm really
yeah,
proud.
yes, right.
I'm
So,
so proud of you.
thank you. We just kept kind of changing, because of the priorities of having children and so it evolved from there. And eventually that petered out a bit because I got a divorce and I really needed to have a job that was, a steady paycheck, something that I could count on. And so we kind of evolved into, you know, we still sold some clothes out of the house and things like that. We still had private customers, but I also had to get a full-time job.
What did you do after that? Is this much long before you told me you weathered the 2008, 2009 crisis in a very unique and wise way? Was this about the same time or no?
2004 was when I became a headhunter for attorneys.
Okay,
Again, a friend referred me to this gal who had the business, and she was looking for someone to help headhunt. Knew nothing about it, but as we always do, we jumped right in. And I did that until 2008 when the mortgage crisis, happened. And
wow.
then nobody was hiring anybody but
Right,
but
right,
labor attorneys. She didn't need me anymore, but she had heard of a real estate agent who was crazy busy because of the crash, and he was doing all short sales and foreclosures for all the people who had overextended themselves.
right.
So he hired me, and I'll never forget looking at the contract for the first time because I was running all the paperwork and running the transactions, and I thought, "This is so Greek." And he
Yes,
said, "You know what? You are going to understand every line of that contract, and you're going to be able to write every listing and every purchase agreement and all the disclosures, and it's going to make perfect sense to you." And I thought to him, that is not going to happen, but okay, I'm going to trust you. I'm trusting you. And sure
right,
enough, you do enough of those things and it becomes second nature. And we were super busy. It wasn't fun because of what people were going through, but
right,
we
right.
were still helping them,
Yes,
get rid of their houses and trying to create the best situation for them.
right.
And it taught me real estate. I got, my real estate license, and that's come in handy many times.
Oh, I'm
So I
sure.
stayed with him until, let's see, 13, when short sales and foreclosures were low.
Winding
He had not
down.
he had not transitioned his business into regular sales. Life
Okay.
lesson there. So
Yes.
anyway, I went to work for another group and became their operations manager.
So, one thing that Jill is reminding all of us about is why it's important to be flexible and jump in feet first, even if you don't know what you're doing, if it's something you're supposed to be doing, or you get this opportunity. And do you get nervous or scared when that happens, Jill? Because I know a lot of people I talk to do. And has that lessened over time because of your entrepreneurial background?
I think it's always scary, and I give myself a little grace. I give myself a day
Right.
for fear to just overcome me. And then I just have to talk to myself and say, this is part of my journey. I don't know why, but it simply seems to be part of my journey from whomever's referred me, however it happens. It's always interesting to me. And so I really kind of pull myself up by my bootstraps and just go for it. So, you can give yourself more than a day, but I tend to just jump in.
That's how I am too, but not everyone is like that, and sometimes I forget that people get really hesitant about things because 'cause I'm like, "What do I have to lose? I don't nothing. What am I gonna be, broke? Oh, well."
Yeah. No, I think I always believe that, I can learn it. I mean,
Yes.
I make mistakes along the way, don't get me wrong, and that's always a little chilling, but I think we all do, and everybody's usually forgiving when you're starting out on something new.
Have you had in business I know we've had that, any really expensive mistakes? And I will give you an example of one of ours we bought. It wasn't really a mistake, it was just life happened in 2020, right before March. We
Mm.
bought vending machines and put them in corporate offices, and then the world shut down, and I think we barely got any sales because, and then they were stuck in the offices because we couldn't retrieve them. So do you have any stories about something
Well,
like
of
that
course.
that really cost you or bit you in the butt that you would like to share that might teach us some lessons that we might need to know?
Sure, sure. Happy to teach the lessons. It's 2019, I started Julie's Tarts. And for some reason, the doors opened up in the corporate world for Julie's Tarts. And so I had obviously private people purchasing my tarts, but most of my business was corporate. So when 2020 hit, corporate shut down. People didn't go into the office. And so all of a sudden, what was really picking up speed just stopped. I had to completely rethink where I was headed and now try to build up the private sector. And that's what I did. All your eggs in one basket, probably not a good idea, you know?
Amen to that. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I know a lot of my entrepreneur friends, when I was just dabbling in entrepreneurship, would tell me, "Oh, well, what's your bread and butter job?" And have you ever had any bread and butter jobs while you were getting your business
Mm-hmm.
going? Can you tell me
Mm-hmm.
about that?
Well, it's
How did
still
you
real estate.
manage real
Still real
estate?
estate.
Okay.
Doing transaction coordination, so all the paperwork, because I
Right.
could do that from my home or wherever my computer is, and then I could set my baking around, set both of them around each other, you know. I could find time to do my baking and then time to do the transaction coordination, either earlier morning or late at night or whatever worked out. Yes, I didn't go just completely into Julie's Tarts by itself. So
Right. So
juggling.
that's always a good tip if you are trying something new to go
Hmm.
dip your toes in the water first.
Right?
And especially that helps out a lot when things shut down.
How
Mm,
true.
yes.
Yes, because interestingly enough, real estate was still busy.
It was very busy in 2020 and
Mhm,
2021 like crazy.
mhm.
I know we now live in Florida, and the market has been really insane and didn't switch
Busy.
to a buyer's market until the end of 2024, really.
Mhm.
And now we're finally getting inventory, but it's not a lot of inventory.
Yeah, it's always
So
interesting to see.
it is, and you really just can't plan ahead for everything that's going to happen in business. And do you have any stories you could tell us about how you haven't been able to plan ahead, but you've been able to overcome the obstacles besides 2020? Because I think that threw a monkey wrench in it for everyone.
Well, that's
Yes.
hmm. Yeah, I really haven't had any major obstacles since 2020. That was the real kicker because I had to rethink my entire approach. I really think that. And, that's kind of took a while to regain traction. It's not been something, it's overnight. Had to go to plan B. I've had
Yes.
to do plan B quite a few times in my life, but it always works, it works out. And it's now I have corporate and retail customers, but I guess the whole thing that is going on now is that I was thinking of really expanding and going brick and mortar. And interestingly enough, life changed again, and both of my to Tennessee. So what happened is my priorities have changed from possibly doing brick and mortar, which would keep me here all of the time because both of my sons moved to Tennessee. And then unfortunately, my sister, who I was here for because she wasn't very mobile, passed away in June. And I tend to rethinking, do I want more freedom? And the answer is yes. I want more time to myself. I am expanding Julie's Tarts, but in a different way.
And I
And
can't wait to
that's
hear all about that
that's to
when the
be
time is
continued.
right.
Thank you.
It's a very
I'd
big
love to come
secret,
back.
and you would love to hear it when the time is right and she launches her project. I'm so excited for her. And,
Thank you.
given her area of expertise, I think she will do splendid job with
Thank you.
that. And so tell me about What really prompted you to consider your kids? Because I know your parents did that and they relocated for you. Are you a really close family and you would do that also? Or do you plan on staying on the West Coast? Or tell me about that a little bit. And you
We
don't
are
have to
very
give us
close.
all away, but
We are very close, and time goes very fast, and I think there may be grandchildren in the future. So I just want time to more free time to travel. No, right now I'm not planning a move to Tennessee, but more visits would be great. Just more hugs. I need more hugs. I decided in my life. Yeah, it's just so much fun to be around them and, watch their lives continue to grow and their journey. And so I really want to do that. And that was a very big reason for changing up what I'm doing.
I love that. And I tell my husband all the time that like we have to get our businesses going. And you want to know why? I have ulterior motives. And you know what they are? I want to be able to take my kids when they're adults on vacations. And I want to be able to leave at the drop of a hat if one of them calls me and says, "Hey, we're having a baby," or "Hey, we need you," or "We need your help with something," and
Exactly.
be able to be there. And that's always been one of my priorities. And
Hmm.
that's why I'm itching to start a new business, but I actually prayed about it and I got the feeling in my gut that it was supposed to be start a podcast right now and the way will be made clear.
I
And
love it.
and have you had any of those experiences where you just kind of pulled something out of the ether, so to speak, and changed direction that you weren't planning on doing ever?
What I'm working on is something that I had thought about, but it wasn't in the plan at this point. So that's when you start to think about more time for yourself, it changes everything. And then you have to go kind of back to the drawing board and say, okay, how's that going to work? I'm going to make that happen for me.
Yes.
And it's a bit of a journey. I'm not quite there yet, but I have a pretty good idea as to where I'm headed.
Yes, and one other thing, I always tell everyone I'm retired, but I'm never going to quit working because I like entrepreneurship. It's so much fun, and I'm an adrenaline junkie, no lie. I like
Hmm.
living by the seat of my pants and figuring
I
things
must
out.
too.
Yeah, and so,
Yeah, I don't see myself not being involved in something either. It's just part of who I am.
it
It
is.
it's a lot of fun, even though there are hairy moments. It's a lot of fun, and it definitely, my tarts are a passion of mine as well, so that helps.
Jilly's tarts are so delicious, and I would love for her to share her story. It's a great story about how she got into baking tarts in the first place. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I can. My aunt, who is a fabulous baker, fabulous cook, my mom's sister-in-law made this blueberry raspberry tart, and I got the recipe from her in my 20s, and I would make it every New Year's Eve. And one day I thought to myself, why am I only making this delicious thing every New Year's Eve? I should make it more often. Hers was kind of rustic looking, so I added some fresh blueberries and raspberries on the top and glazed it, and I took it to a housewarming party. And when people saw it and they tasted it, they said, "Can I buy this can I order one from you?" And I thought, well, okay, why not? And so it started all with one, 11-inch berry tart. And eventually people wanted other flavors. So I came up with chocolate and then lemon and key lime, white chocolate raspberry, and pumpkin cream cheese. And now I have 8 flavors of 11-inch tarts and 9-inch tarts. And then what happened when I got back into corporate was that people didn't want to be cutting and handling desserts. They wanted something they could pick up. So I started making my little tartinis, which are the little individual sizes. And I now have 8 flavors, and I usually do a special flavor summer, and then it varies. And then one at Christmas time, which is peppermint chocolate.
What is your favorite tart flavor as the baker? Do you have your absolute favorite one?
I have to say it changes, but I'm a chocolate lover from way back, and my chocolate tartinis and tarts are my favorite, and probably chocolate peanut butter too.
I have
Yeah.
tried Jilly's tarts and they are amazing. So
Thank
so
you.
if she's baking tarts and you're in Southern California, you should definitely look up her website, which is jillystarts.com in case you need your tart fix. They're delicious and you have to order them 2 days in advance to give her enough
That's
time to
right.
bake and plan her schedule. Please order them if you're in Southern California. You will never regret it. I promise you. And she
Thank
also
you.
offers gluten-free tarts
I do.
for anyone that needs that, and they're also
Gluten
delicious.
friendly. They're not made in a
Yes, they're
gluten free
gluten-friendly, yes,
kitchen, but they are made with gluten friendly ingredients. Yes.
and they are also delicious.
Thank you.
So, now that you are evolving again, it's kind of like every time you change your journey as an entrepreneur, you're kind of like a phoenix rising from the ashes because a lot of times when you make changes as an entrepreneur, it's for a bad reason. But I love in your story how your family and you have had a lot of really great reasons too. And can you tell me a little bit about how you make the choices when you change your idea? How do you get the ideas to change your path? Are you told by someone that you're really great at things, or how have they come across your path, your changes that you have made as far as different careers?
Well, the different careers have just been by people who've shown up in my life. It's it's been kind of amazing when I look back at the whole journey. With the tarts, it's something that I feel. That may sound kind of doo-doo-doo-doo, but it really is. It's something just how I created the flavors that I created and the recipes, and I created how I decorate them. It's a visual. It becomes as a vision to me. I don't know how that really happens, but it just is something that I know I want to do.
Well, that's, I bet, the artist in you. It just changed forms. Once an artist, always an artist.
How true.
You
That's
just
true.
evolve into new forms or disciplines.
I'm not singing and dancing anymore. I'm decorating tarts.
I bet she sings and dances while she's decorating tarts
Okay,
sometimes.
secret's out.
You can taste it
You're
in the
right.
tart.
It's filled with love.
Okay, and so a couple more questions. Most of my audience that I'm getting for my show happen to be moms, and they have fairly young children, not necessarily all the way up to high school. Some of them do have high schoolers. But what is one piece of life advice? And could you give us one life hack that you have learned that has saved you a lot of time as a parent? And it could be not kid related, just a life hack that you can think of. I can give you an example of one of mine
Okay,
if you like.
you're stumping me.
Every time someone has breast pads that they don't use because you always buy a huge box of them and only use 10, I think, I put them in plants underneath because it's the diaper thing and it helps save moisture in the bottom of your plant and keep it from drying
Wow,
or getting too wet.
that's a great hack.
That is one of my parenting life hacks.
I I don't have a life hack, but I do get free coffee every now and then because I frequent the places who let me put my little member phone number in there, and so my coffee every day becomes a free one every now and again.
That's still
Just a
a
little
life
secret.
hack.
Just a little secret. Yeah.
Yes, I do that too.
Yeah. But with kids, I would just, I would say just spend as much time as you can with them. I mean, I was a team mom for every team and I missed it when it was over and everything seemed so crazy and busy at the time. And I don't know ever how I juggled all of it because I always had something either entrepreneurial or work going on with everything. But boy, I wouldn't change any of that for the world. So enjoy the busyness, enjoy
Amen to
each.
that. And you are also, you have a lot of energy like I do. So
Mhm.
a lot of people come up to me frequently and they're like, how do you have 4 kids and still have a podcast and do other things? And I said, well, if you're doing something you love, it gives you more energy to keep
That's true.
going. And
Yes.
I'm really just sitting here having a conversation with Jill and sticking it online and having a great time learning new things and
Mhm.
getting new advice for people that I can share. So
It's a
that's,
fun show. It's fun. I've seen your other episodes. It's
I want to say, what was something when you were a parent or now that gives you joy that keeps you going when times get tough? Is there something that you do, like a little ritual that you have? I know I like to make a cappuccino and read a book
Mm,
and also hike and
yeah.
till I can't breathe, but
Right. Well, exercise for me is a big thing for sure. But I think the ritual that we had wasn't just for me, it was for family. Every Sunday we did family dinner and with my parents, and it was something we looked forward to, and it was just great times. Lots of good conversation. And yeah, I wouldn't change that for the world. We're so busy all of the time, but we always made time every Sunday. I don't know that we ever missed one, which is so funny to think of, but it was that important, to us.
I
And
love that.
we're very close. Yeah.
Yes, and it's a reminder to me because a lot of people I talk to, they're like, "Oh, we're just so busy." And they wear the busy badge like it's amazing. And I think there's something to be said about taking the time and making something a priority. So for me on Sundays, if anyone asks me to do something, I always say no, it's family day because I think that getting back to those traditions is really important and it's something that I want to teach my kids.
Hmm.
In
I
addition
totally
to
agree with you.
entrepreneurship, and,
Hmm.
do you happen to have an example of some time when you were a young mom and doing entrepreneurial things? How did you do it? Do you know? Do you have an explanation? That's what I wanna know.
Well, when I started the tart business, before I was just baking for friends and family, before I rolled it out to everyone. And I'd be baking at 1 in the morning because there wasn't time. But it was so much fun for me and it was such a passion of mine. And what's always the thrilling part is when you deliver it to someone and they open the box and their eyes and their smile lights up. It's so rewarding that I would end up baking in the middle of the night sometimes just to get orders out to family, and friends. And I guess you just do what you have to do. I didn't even think about it.
Right, and just so you know, I don't know if she still has her black Jeep, but one time Jill actually delivered a box of tarts to me in her black Jeep, and it was the most awesome thing ever. It really made my day, and my dad happened to be in town all the way from the East Coast when we lived in California, and we really enjoyed them, and it definitely put a smile on our faces.
Oh, that's great.
So,
And yes, I have
if
my black Jeep.
yes, if you're lucky, she's going to hand deliver this to you in her black Jeep.
That's right. My Jilly Jeep.
Yes,
That's
and
right.
it makes it extra Southern California for me. Just it does it for you. So if you're visiting from out of state even, call
Call
ahead
me up.
2
That's right.
days in advance.
That's right. We will deliver. That's right.
Well, Jill and I are going to bring things full circle and talk about life lessons we have learned working in the restaurant industry because there are a lot of them. And I always encourage my friends with teenagers to send them to work at a restaurant, even if it's for 6 months, because you learn so many life skills from working in a restaurant. And it's a tough job. It's a really tough career being on your feet all day. It's hot, it's sweaty, and you still have to put on a good show for your customers and act like everything is grand. So, can you tell us a little bit about some of the lessons you learned in the restaurant industry and especially maybe some big things that you did that you wouldn't do again that you learned because you had just started in the industry?
Well, yeah, there are so many things. I mean, opening up the restaurant, it was all about hiring the right people. It was training them the right way. It was all about having a good attitude yourself. So leading by example. And what we tried to get our employees to understand was that customer service was really the key. Even if you're up at the 6 o'clock shift, which I was,
Yes.
and you're still a little tired, you have a smile on your face because that's bring joy to people that way. It was really a lot about learning about customer service. It was learning about taking yourself away from thinking about yourself exactly and finding the good and being joyful. And it ended up being so much fun because we'd have customers like, I don't know if you remember Tony the Tiger, who
Yes.
was on the Frosted Flakes box. Well, the guy who was the voice of Tony the Tiger was one of our customers. He came in every single Sunday, just with that fun voice, and he'd go through the commercial, and it was just so much fun. And you meet a lot of great people You
Yes.
also meet some challenging people who come in every Sunday, and you have to learn how to deal with that. You learn how to be a really good customer. Once you've worked in the restaurant industry, you become a very good customer.
Amen to that. And you appreciate how much the servers and the staff stand on their feet all day. I know every time I restarted working at a restaurant, oh my goodness, your feet hurt. The first couple of
Right.
weeks trying to get
Mhm.
into that, and you still have
Mhm.
to keep a smile on your face. So appreciate your service staff, definitely. And
Mhm.
I would say, one of the things is you're really putting on a show for your customers. And sometimes people don't get to eat out that often. If you can make it special, it really makes a big difference in their lives. And it's touching.
Mhm.
I know my family never eats out right now because we have little kids.
Mhm.
And yes, don't add automatic gratuity on a party of 6 if it's all toddlers. I'm just gonna
Yeah,
say
right.
that right there. That's a life lesson I have learned.
No, you have to appreciate too, if you've ever been a server, you can appreciate how difficult the job is. It's so much about organization
Yes,
and memory and coordinating all of that. And if you've ever been in the industry, you realize that sometimes people are just a little off some days, and you have to be a little gracious because it's a very difficult job, I have to say. So
yes,
it
yes.
looks simple, but it's not.
It really is not, and it's difficult, especially when you have some of the fun customers, and by fun, I mean the ones that are so mean that you still have to save face and make it through the day anyway. I can think of one story because I also worked breakfast for a really long time, and one of the ones, they ordered eggs and we fried them. And I assume the person never had cooked an egg before because when sometimes the pan is a little hot and it gets the clear stuff around
Brown.
the edge? Okay, so they were livid because we put plastic in their eggs.
They didn't know.
They had no idea. And so, I had two options there: tell them they were dumb or
Mhm.
say, "Oh, I'm so
So sorry.
sorry. Let me
Right.
get you some more eggs. We'll
Clearly, they've
make."
never cooked an egg for
Yes, and
themselves.
you really have to identify what the person's thinking and react accordingly to really keep the cool.
Mhm.
Do you have any fun stories like that? And by fun, I mean crazy ones.
It was just always, I think that the challenge was when people were upset. And like you
Yes.
said, I think the challenge was coming up with something, a great solution, and still getting them to come back another time. We would usually get them something else and then refund the meal. Of course, sometimes they're just serial diners that come in and
Yes.
know the shtick, but when not, when they're just somebody that's, we didn't do exactly what we were supposed to do, we would refund the money and hope that all things would be great the next time. So yeah, it's so funny. I don't have a story.
I have plenty of really crazy ones, but
Do you?
that's okay. We'll save those for another time. So, I really think that working in the customer service industry is a tough job. And one of the things I keep talking about with my other entrepreneur friends is that I see really great customer service going a long way in the future. And I think it's going to be like a brand new realization that high quality companies are going to have, that even though we have all this awesome AI technology, that we really have to keep the human element in customer service.
Hmm.
And I would like to hear what you think about that. Do you think that it will make a difference for a company if they focus on customer service today because of the playing field and a lot of companies going away from personalized customer service, even though it costs more money? Do you think that it could be of benefit for the companies?
Absolutely. I don't see the companies when you don't have human interaction doing as well. I mean, look at 2020 when we were all shut down and shut in, and that's what we missed was the human interaction, and that's all for me. That's what customer service is, because
Right.
somebody that's AI can't solve all of the problems. I mean, you have to be on the spot, knowing who you're dealing with. We're humans, and we're all different with the way we react to things. And I think you can see that when you're in person and doing customer service. And I think you can change your direction a little bit or know how to make that person happy. And I don't think that's ever going to go away. I mean, maybe it'll go away some, but I think that we all need that interaction. And I think that 2020 showed us that.
I think you are completely right. And also, there's a human nature and just this innate thing for not everyone, I would say, but when you're dealing with a customer, being able to understand where they're coming from and then being able to react to that. Um, that is just something that I think AI is not going to be up for. I don't know about you, but a lot of the companies I actually go to or shop with, I only use them because they pick up the phone when
I
I
was
want to
just
ask
going
a
to say
question.
the hardest thing for me is when nobody picks up the phone. And so you have a very specific question and none of the options cover the question and you can't get a human being on the other end.
Yes,
It's very frustrating to me. And I don't think that that will help a company. I really
I
don't.
agree. Another thing is, I don't know if I'm sure that you knocked on a lot of doors of corporate offices and
Hmm.
noticed that they are really good at gatekeeping. And when sometimes the person that comes in the door could be really beneficial for the person and they just don't know it. Do you think that good customer service training could be useful for big companies like that too?
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah, it's interesting because when you do get someone to interact with, it makes all of the difference.
It does.
The way I've tried to get past some of the pushback is by delivering samples of tarts. So someone is more likely to let you in the door if you're offering something for them to try,
That's
something
very
for
true.
free, just on the whim that they might enjoy it and might want to order it. And
Yes.
so otherwise, a lot of times even I'll send an email and they will respond to those kinds of things. But when you just call on the phone and if you don't have a purpose or an action to take with them, a lot of times I don't get a call back. It's very
Right.
interesting.
Right. It's really about, and our whole talk has been about this developing and fostering relationships and
Hmm.
how it is so important to do that. And especially entrepreneurs, we have to be very good at fostering relationships. And even if you don't talk to the person for a long time, it's important to be sharp and remember to ask them something about their family or remember things about people because I
Hmm.
don't know about you, Jill, but I love talking with people, and each and every person I connect with, I feel they're important. I genuinely feel they're important. And I think that shows in your customer service technique.
Definitely. And it really is just about being human and human interaction, because people are interesting. If you give them the chance and you ask them the questions, they have interesting things to teach you or to tell you. That's been part of the greatest part of my journey is all of the different people I've met and all of their stories and their things about their lives. And that's super fulfilling on the journey because it's all of these businesses are really it's about the people. It really is.
Amen to that. And I think it really goes to show that even as a mom, um, it's important to reach out to people and connect with them, even if they're not your best friend. But it's so important to have that community. And it's the same thing as networking is for an
Mhm.
entrepreneur. You are making little connections and touches with people because you never know when your paths are going to cross again and you can help each other out with your goal or something of that nature. I think one of our take home messages, I think Jill might agree with this, is to don't shut down and be willing to talk with people. One of my big shticks I'm on right now is don't be looking at your cell phone all the time. So I just like to remind all of the moms of that because you have such limited time with your kids. And I know for a fact that when I scroll on Reels, I don't remember most of them unless it's a recipe and I save it. Just remember that because your kids are someone that you are touching and putting your personal touch on all the time as a
Hmm.
parent, and we don't want our kids to remember us not paying attention to them.
Right. It might be fun for all your moms that listen to put together little groups that it's just basically a networking group to find out more about each other and to find out what interests you have, and maybe somebody's interested in cooking and sharing recipes, maybe somebody's interested in pickleball, or if you don't talk to each other and get together with each other, a lot of times you don't know all the history and all the things that people are interested in and a lot about their journey. And people are pretty interesting. They come from families that are all different and had different experiences growing up. And it could be really fun journey to put together, little networking groups that just talk to each other and find out about each other. And who knows, another business could be, created out of that.
Amen to that. And
Yeah.
that's part of the reason why I started podcasting, so I can talk to a lot of people, and it's really fun getting to know people. For instance, I had no idea that Jill's family used to design jewelry and clothing and resell airplanes and all of that fun things, and I just knew her as Jilly's Tarts and real estate, and so I didn't know anything about those previous stories, and it's a real testament to the strength of humans that we can get through anything, even if you're having a bad day or something is not going your way. Jill always has a smile on her face when I see her, and she's probably one of the most happy people I know, even though she's not always happy, I'm sure, because that's just life.
That's right. It feels better to be happy. It's a choice. It's a
It
choice.
is. It is. And that's something I try to teach my kids because sometimes they act like Eeyore in Winnie the Pooh.
Don't we all?
And I try not to call them Eeyore because I don't wanna give them a complex. That would be a
Yeah,
mom
good
fail,
idea.
don't do that.
Don't do
But
that.
I'm just thinking in my head, "Eeyore, Eeyore." And then you give them, like you say things and they're only 3 and you're like, "Is your glass half full or half empty?" They have no idea what you mean. So, you have to get really creative and try to get them thinking on a new topic,
Yeah,
and
that's
we have
cute.
to do
I
our
like that.
that to ourselves as adults too.
That's
So I'm gonna have to find our mantra for that. It's not Rassam's
Yes,
always find a way.
I do like that, though.
Maybe Rassam's always find a way to be happy. I don't know.
There you go. I like that too. Yes.
Yes, and it really goes to show how important it is. Sometimes if you're not feeling it, you can just act like you're happy and it helps you be more happy.
And my dad
And
always said to me, "Never, never, never, never give up." And so I always hear that when something's a little tougher than expected. So,
I love that. And
yeah.
can you think of any other sayings that he said when you were young and growing up that made a big impact on your life? Because I know
Well, it
I
was
can
always
think of
because we were
some.
girls. We were girls in and in kind of a male-dominated world back then. I don't think it's the
Right.
same now because, women are in corporations, head of corporations and all that. But, we didn't even have girls' sports back then. And so he would always just say that you can do whatever you put your mind to. And I, I have lived by that. And so he was definitely the one who instilled confidence, and because he always believed he could do anything that he put his mind to. So that's what he handed down, and it's been a tool.
That is beautiful, and I love that quote. I've seen it as if you
Yeah.
can dream it, you can do it, or different ways to say it. So I'm gonna have to incorporate that for my kids.
You are. That's right.
So
I like the one you have already.
yes, because I got tired of hearing, I can't do that.
That's
Like, who
right.
taught you how to say that? I
Don't
didn't
know
have
where
to
that
teach
comes
them
from.
that. They just
I
know
know.
it,
Right. Yeah.
or they
No,
don't want to.
positivity. That's right.
Yes. Positivity is extremely important
It is.
because the way you look at things, you can look at them as a lesson instead of a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
I know I've been through many disasters, but they've
Yes.
taught me way more than anything. And actually, that's why I started writing my new book about women in business and being
Mm.
moms. I was out at a coffee place and 9 months pregnant, and they told I said, "Can I have the bathroom key? I have to go to the bathroom before I ordered." And the manager looked at me and said, "You aren't allowed to use the bathroom unless you have purchased a coffee first."
My goodness. Well, that's not customer service. I'll tell you that right
It
now.
was not it was not, and I was like, "Can I talk to your manager after I came
My
out?" And he's like,
goodness.
"I am the manager." And I
No.
you know what? It was my first time ever complaining somewhere, and it was not because I cared that much, because I've worked in customer service, I have thick
Right.
skin. It was more so, I hope that they get trained not to do that again, because
Hmm.
not everyone is as ridiculous as I am and can brush it off, you know?
Yeah. Wow. Well,
So that encouraged
there
me to
was an
start writing
urgency.
my
Hey, I
next
like
book.
that.
Yes,
See?
and today is actually the anniversary of my first book being published, so
It is the
yes.
anniversary. That's
Thank
fantastic.
you.
Good for you. I love it.
And
An
so you can
author.
yes, you can really change the way you perceive things and view them as a lesson,
Hmm.
and it can turn your whole life around, and I'm sure Jilly can attest to that as well.
Hmm. Definitely. Lots of life lessons. Lots of
Yes.
life lessons.
So don't
Lots
be
of plan
afraid to
Bs.
mess up.
No,
And
exactly.
I don't even like to call them plan Bs. I like to call it like re-strategizing or changing my mission.
Changing
Because
my mission. I like that.
plan B makes it sound like this was my fallback plan. And I try to fall forward at least, you know?
That's good. Yeah. I always see plan B as positive. Just another way to look at the situation. That's how I view it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it sounds way better when you think of it the way you do.
That's my optimistic side.
Yes. I would like to personally thank you, Jill, for being on my podcast. Again, this is Jill McClure. Her website is jillystarts.com, and you can order Jilly's Tarts. On her website, you have to have 48 hours advanced notice, and they are the best thing since sliced bread. I can attest to
Thank
that. I
you.
have tried them. They are delicious, they are light, they are satisfying, and they're also very elegant and sophisticated. So it's perfect to show up for any event with.
Thank
And
you, Emily.
we always have to throw in a pitch because we're both sales ladies here. Yes, thank you. And again, thank you for joining us on the Emily Rassam Show. My name is Emily Rassam. And do not forget to like, subscribe, or share if this podcast has made a difference in your life. Thanks for joining me today on the Emily Rassam Show. If you laughed, learned something, or at least didn't roll your eyes too hard, go ahead and like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, keep the coffee strong, your kids alive, and the dreams big.